You know, old courthouses are just filled with these huge leather-bound ledgers, right? Stacks of them, usually forgotten in some dusty basement. They are never meant to be read like stories. They're just cold, hard data, records of transactions. But sometimes, buried deep inside all those numbers, is a story that was never, ever meant to be told. And that's the story we're going to uncover today.
This quote from the researchers who pieced all this together, it really gets to the heart of it. These books documented human commerce with this chilling precision, but they were really designed to hide just as much as they revealed. I mean, they were account books, not history books. But today, we're going to read between the lines. So, this story doesn't actually start in the 1840s. It starts in 2009. An intern, Rebecca Chen, is digitizing these old plantation logs, and she starts to spot a pattern. She sees a name, Martha, appearing again and again, across totally different properties. And right next to her name, there's this recurring, just heartbreaking note, with newborn child. This single discovery would end up unraveling one of the most disturbing, systematically documented patterns of exploitation ever found.
What Chen had stumbled upon was this relentless, horrifying cycle, a journey through 5 different plantations that were basically prisons, and each one followed the exact same terrible script. This wasn't just a series of isolated tragedies, oh no. This was evidence of a methodical machine of abuse, and it was all documented in the cold, detached language of business. So let's look at the first stop on this harrowing journey.
It all starts here, Riverside Plantation in Georgia. It's 1840, and Martha, who's just 19 years old, is bought for $800. Now that was a really high price, and it was because she was literate, a rare and frankly a dangerous skill for an enslaved person to have. Well, soon after she gets there, an overseer named Dutch Carmichael arrives. He assaults her, and by October she knows she's pregnant. After she gives birth to her daughter, Sarah, Martha is sold off within 6 weeks. The reason listed in the ledger? Disciplinary reassignment. Chill.
And this quote, this just lays bare the stark reality of the world Martha was trapped in. There was no one to appeal to, no protection under any law, nothing. This says it all, the absolute power imbalance that made this pattern of abuse not just possible, but completely inevitable. And so the cycle continued at the next place, Fairmount Estate. Here, Martha was forced into brutal fieldwork. The owner's brother, a man named Edmund Beaumont, he singled her out. He used her literacy as an excuse to get her alone, and soon, she was pregnant again. After her son Daniel was born, she and her 2 infant children were sold, again. Within 6 weeks, her recorded value was already starting to drop, and that's a trend that would just keep going.
Okay, so at Oakwood, there's actually a brief moment of stability. Martha's assigned to work in the spinning house, and she's allowed to keep her children with her. You can almost feel a moment of peace, but that is shattered when the owner's son, James Prescott, comes home from university. He uses her literacy to isolate her in an office, and the pattern repeats. After a life-threatening illness during the pregnancy, she gives birth to her daughter, Rebecca. 10 weeks later, she's sold again.
Cedar Hills introduces a new level of cruelty, if you can even imagine. For the first time, Martha is separated from her children. They're sent to live in a plantation nursery, and she's only allowed to see them on Sunday afternoons. The owner's son, Nathan Whitfield, a man known for his cruelty, targets her. After she gives birth to her 4th child, Joshua, she is, eventually, sold again. And you can see, her recorded value keeps dropping.
The final plantation is Magnolia Grove, down in Louisiana. Now, the owner here, Henri Delacroix, he doesn't use overt violence. It's something more insidious, a kind of coercion, offering her privileges in exchange for compliance. And soon, Martha is pregnant for the 5th time. After her daughter Grace is born, something different happens. Delacroix doesn't sell her. For 2 years, the pattern actually breaks. But when he dies in 1848, his entire estate is liquidated. Martha and all 5 of her children are sold at auction for just $475.
So, we've followed Martha's terrible journey from one place to the next. But now, we need to kind of step back and look at what the researchers figured out about the system itself. This wasn't just random cruelty, you see. It was a mechanism. The ledgers actually reveal a deliberate pattern of using sales to erase and conceal the evidence of sexual violence.
Just look at this timeline. It reveals the breathtakingly brutal pace of Martha's ordeal. Between 1840 and 1848, that's just 8 years, she endures 5 pregnancies and is sold 6 times. There's almost no period of rest, 0 stability. Each birth is followed by a transaction, moving her and her growing family to a new place, which effectively just resets the board and hides the problem.
And here, this is the story told in pure numbers.
8 years, 5 plantations, 5 births from 5 different perpetrators, none of whom ever faced any legal consequences. 6 sales, 1 woman. When you strip away all the narrative and just look at the data, the scale of the injustice it's just staggering. It's the arithmetic of a crime that was hidden in plain sight.
You know, in every single birth record for Martha's children, the ledger reads, "Father unknown." This wasn't just a missing piece of information. It was what's called a legal fiction. It was a bureaucratic tool they used to completely erase the perpetrator's responsibility, to protect family reputations, and to make sure that the children remained enslaved just like their mother. It was a lie, written right into the official record.
So what happened after that final sale in 1848? What happened to the children? Well, the researchers dedicated years to trying to answer that exact question, trying to trace the lives of the 5 children who were sold with Martha from Magnolia Grove. And the few fragments they managed to find, they paint a devastating picture of what family separation really meant.
Martha's oldest, Sarah, was sold separately at age 10, and she just vanishes from the records by 1860. Daniel, he was also sold away, and he may have survived to become a sharecropper. But for Rebecca, Joshua, and Grace, the 3 youngest, the trail just goes cold after that 1848 sale. They were 5, 3, and 2 years old. They were just scattered to the wind, their connection to their mother and to each other likely erased forever.
The fragmented stories of Martha's children are really the tragic final chapter to her own documented life. It's incredible, isn't it? Her story was preserved by the very system that destroyed her family. And in reclaiming it, we can see the full brutal logic of that system at work, right up to its final callous act.
This visual really says it all. It shows the economic consequences of Martha's trauma. In 1840, as a healthy, literate 19-year-old, she was valued at $800. After years of forced pregnancies and the supposed burden of her surviving children, her last documented sale price in 1853 was just $275. The system didn't just inflict physical and emotional abuse, it financially punished her for that abuse, devaluing her as her body was worn down.
After that final sale, Martha just vanishes. No death certificate, no more sale records, nothing. She disappears from the historical record because her life, which had been reduced to a series of transactions, was no longer profitable enough to even track. The system that documented her suffering so meticulously just erased her when she stopped being a convenient asset.
Martha's story is so horrifyingly unique because we have the documents, we can actually trace the pattern. But her experience was not unique at all. It represents the silent trauma of countless women. Which leaves us with this question, doesn't it? If this is the one story we know because it happened to be written down, how do we even begin to honor the millions of stories that were never recorded?
And in the end, that's the final irony. The cold, inhumane ledgers that documented Martha as property became the very instruments of her remembrance. They were never meant to be read this way, but they preserved a truth that simply refused to stay buried. They preserved her story. And now, finally, that story can be told.